Journey with me and my family across town to drop my son to his Saturday evening appointment. On this journey, I was determined to get him there on time. However, we learned about the appointment at the last minute, and time was not on our side. While I was driving, I thought about resilience and how it shaped me along my career path. I talked about in the last video how life presents these obstacles and you have to be resilient to push past them and move on to make progress. In my DJ and engineering career, I faced many setbacks and I've had to learn to be resilient or risk staying in a place where I wouldn't be able to move. I have learned that I can't let a setback change me for the worst. It's funny how resilience can leave a bitter taste in your mouth if you don't frame it properly. To properly employ resilience, I had to give the setback or difficulty a context so that I would know how it would affect me in both the moment and after when I reflected on it. A while back, I was playing an outdoor gig at night and I didn't check the weather before I left. I arrived, set up, and played most of the gig, but at the end, a fine mist of rain began to fall. I had no tent, so the rain touched my speakers and my DJ controller. I stopped the music and began to pack up. What I didn't know was that in a week's time, due to water getting in the controller, one of its major features would stop working the way it did before and would pretty much change the way that I play music. I asked myself if being resilient would change me for the better. I told myself that there would be a way out of this. I'm not gonna let an honest mistake or equipment failure be the reason why I can't play to the best of my ability. When I am engineering a gig, I have to have the mindset that there's no room for error. And if I do make a mistake, I have to pivot quickly and get to the best possible outcome. I have to be focused, make sure my emotions are regulated, and move forward. Not checking the weather was my mistake, but the real mistake was not having a tent while doing an outdoor gig. Having one would automatically minimize my chances of equipment damage due to any kind of rain or snow. At first it felt like an expensive mistake, but it really added a touch of professionalism in a time where I needed it. I had gone way too long doing outdoor gigs without proper coverage, and now I was fixing that. Update on the drive. We got to our destination 3 minutes past the time, but there was a grace period and everything was all good. By this time, the sun had set and I began to make my way home. I was glad that he was able to make it because this was a paying gig. Enough said. Back to resilience and how it shaped me. One time I walked into a gig to run sound. While I was preparing things on my end and getting ready for the show, I noticed the singers and band members were running late and could not do a sound check. That meant that I would be mixing and making adjustments on the spot at the beginning of the show. It also meant that I would be splitting my attention between what whoever on stage needed in the moment and making adjustments for the house to sound the best that it can. Fast forward to the show starting. At this point, frustration set in and I really had to concentrate. I prayed for patience and wisdom and took a couple of deep breaths. I needed to center myself in order to focus on these new directives that I now had. I made quick baseline adjustments to the sound in the house that I knew would work. Then I focused on the band, time to get their attention and quickly give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to gauge how the levels were for them. More quick adjustments and then I could move on. While I was doing this, I kept an eye on the singers. One of the background vocalists got my attention and wanted me to turn their levels up. Done. The lead singer did a similar action and I made more adjustments. Suddenly, everything was starting to make sense. I gave the kick drum an adjustment to have more presence in the house and turned all the vocalists up in the house to have more presence. I noticed that people started to respond and engage with the music. That is always a good sign. The gig ended up working out great, and I did the best that I could under the circumstances. Every fear and piece of frustration was left right there because I made the choice to move past the initial frustration with a limited setup. It wasn't my fault, but I turned it around by being resilient and getting back up where frustration knocked me down. It took years for me to learn how to make this kind of decision in a difficult situation, and I'm glad that I did. Coming up, I had a different path than a lot of audio professionals, and I thought that disqualified me from being considered a professional. Instead, I focused on mastering my technique, from mixing, blending, and selecting, and EQing using compression and gain staging. I made sure that I nailed that, but along the way, my professionalism was being polished simply by checking my mindset and ensuring that I wouldn't quit, even when the path forward was rough. I was tempted to think that I could just ride the fence and do nothing, but no. When people think of a professional, they think of someone that gets results no matter what. This doesn't mean that you have to be perfect, but what it does mean is that you replace perfection with resilience. Riding the fence is the quickest way to stay in a place where you're frustrated and make no movement, neither forward or backward. This shows in every action you take from that point on, and your performance becomes stagnant. Riding the fence is dangerous and an enemy to resilience. I think back to when I was a kid on the playground. I used to be afraid of the swings because I had this great fear of falling. I avoided them for the longest time because of it. It took me a very long time, almost into my teen years, to be bold enough to get on the swings. And when I did, I absolutely loved it. It actually thrilled me how much I was able to feel the air as I swung back and forth, and even control the way the swing would turn as I went back and forth. I laughed at how I was afraid of them and how long I let that fear keep me from experiencing them. A great man once said, "Find a way or make a way." This shows up often when I'm doing gigs. I had to use wisdom in driving across town to get my son to his appointment, making sure not to speed excessively and taking the best route. It took patience and being mature on the road, especially on a Saturday night. The same applies when I'm in the field because others are counting on me. When I'm recording a set at home, my family is counting on me also, but most importantly, I am counting on me, so I need to be resilient. Resilience is preparing me for greatness, y'all. Till next time, DJ Leighton J, I'm out.